What a guan?
What a guan?
That a guan pa.
What a guan? What a guan?
What a guan? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a guan pa. What a guan?
The greatest show on earth is here, and Fan Central goes into extra time for 39 days right throughout FIFA's Showpiece tournament. With a Pepsi in hand, of course. Catch the playbook with a tactical breakdown from our expert coaches. Come sit in our fan corner where you have your say on the day's action. Fame or shame, who were the best or worst players of the day? And have a laugh as we share some of the best reactions on social media. After the final whistle, it's extra time. Fan Central Extra Time. 8 p.m. daily with 10 p.m. shows on select days where there are 8 p.m. match kickoffs.
Fan Central Extra Time is brought to you by the Pepsi Football Nation, where fans make the rules. Football, better with Pepsi.
Tune in to Lead Story, weekdays at 6 p.m. Hosted by Jody Ann Quarry.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Oh, I think that I found myself a cheerleader. She is always right there when I need her. Oh, me! See it happen on CVM TV. I'm out.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
What a guan?
What a guan?
That a guan pa.
What a guan? What a guan?
What a guan? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a guan pa. What a guan?
So when I wake up in the morning, I say a word of prayer. Tap, 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 tap. Yo, this is yours truly, The Image, and I'm representing for CVM. See it happen. You hear that? CVM what? See it happen. Listen, keep it locked.
The greatest show on earth is here, and Fan Central goes into extra time for 39 days right throughout FIFA's Showpiece tournament. With a Pepsi in hand, of course. Catch the playbook with a tactical breakdown from our expert coaches. Come sit in our fan corner where you have your say on the day's action. Fame or shame, who were the best or worst players of the day? And have a laugh as we share some of the best reactions on social media. After the final whistle, it's extra time. Fan Central Extra Time. 8 p.m. daily with 10 p.m. shows on select days where there are 8 p.m. match kickoffs.
Fan Central Extra Time is brought to you by the Pepsi Football Nation, where fans make the rules. Football, better with Pepsi.
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
Watagwan.
Watagwan.
Datagwan pa.
Watagwan.
Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
Watagwan pa Watagwan.
Every dream conquered is another dream game. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm closer, one step closer.
We apologize for a delayed start, but tonight, the National Council on Drug Abuse is sounding the alarm as more young Jamaicans are using ganja while increasingly believing that it is harmless. On this International Day Against Drug Abuse and illicit trafficking, are our prevention strategies keeping pace with rapidly changing attitudes toward drug use? Then, the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce enters a national conversation on governance, calling for a more robust anti-corruption framework following the Integrity Commission's report into Cabinet Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley. What does this mean for investor confidence, the rule of law, and Jamaica's economic reputation? And later, with Jamaica now confirming that it has signed a memorandum of understanding with the United States regarding third country nationals, what human rights safeguards should be in place if deportations from the United States increase? We'll be joined by opposition spokesperson on youth and human rights, Isaac Buchanan, who joins us fresh from his sectoral contributions. Plus, in State of Play, Stacey Ann Williams runs the race of her life in Croatia. Elaine Thompson-Hira continues her return to world-class form, and the FIFA World Cup's round of 32 picture becomes clearer as the group stage draws to a close. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and this is Lead Story. Today is the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, also called World Drug Day. This year's theme from the UN Office on Drugs and Crime is the World Drug Problem: persisting issues, new challenges, innovative responses. For many years, the public conversation around drugs was relatively straightforward. Drugs are dangerous. The message was simple: don't use them. But today's reality is far more complex. Medicinal cannabis is now a legitimate industry. Social media has normalized drug culture. Synthetic drugs are more readily available than ever before. And perhaps most concerning of all, many young people no longer believe that ganja poses any real risk. The National Council on Drug Abuse says that perception matters, because when risk is minimized, experimentation often follows. At the same time, Jamaica is also beginning to see greater conversation around MDMA, or commonly known as Molly, a drug that's often marketed as safe, but can contain a range of unknown and potentially deadly substances. So, how should Jamaica respond? Is this primarily a public health issue, a parenting issue, an education issue, or all of the above? Joining me now is Orain Ruddock, Westmoreland Parish Coordinator for Prevention, Public Education and Treatment at the National Council on Drug Abuse. Mr. Ruddock, welcome to Lead Story.
Hi, good evening. Good, how are you doing?
I'm well and really glad to have you on today with us to talk to us on International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking.
Right, and I'm glad to be here. Every opportunity to spread the word is a good opportunity.
So spread the word with us. From the NCDA's perspective, what's the most important message Jamaicans should take away from today?
All right. The basic message that we're pushing is that when we look at prevention, simply put in the Jamaican dialect, is everybody business. Drug prevention, it needs all hands on deck for the message to be spread across for us to see meaningful change.
You want to have that message be the ones that persons remember, but you have also warned that cannabis use among young people is increasing. Even perhaps more concerning is that many believe now that it's not so harmful. Are you worried about that shift in perception?
I am personally worried. And when I do have the conversations with the youngsters across the length and breadth of the parish, and they seemingly discover the new reality or the essence of the argument, some of them really realize that what they would have been taught, what they would have seen is actually flawed. And because some of them are realizing that some individuals who they too know would have suffered ill fates due to their usage. It is heart-wrenching, and if we do not put a grip on this and formulate a collective approach to stem what is happening, we might find ourselves in a health crisis.
We might find ourselves in a health crisis, but we're also in a situation where parents need to be looking out as well. Since you said that teens are the ones that are getting more and more involved in drugs and believing it is safe. That's a wrong assumption. But for their parents at home, do you believe that they're sufficiently involved and informed about the current drug landscape? Because yesterday we discussed MDMA or Molly and ecstasy. Today we're discussing ganja, and all of this is in a world where our teens believe they can do these drugs and be safe afterwards. Do you think that parents are sufficiently informed?
At this current time, I'm going to say that parents are continuing to be informed. Some parents completely ignore the narrative because they were cultured a particular way. Some are willing to take the information. Some are willing to process the information. And with that processing, they will have new discoveries. So some parents would have started to make the move to say, hey, I need to really pay attention to my child, while some are saying, no man, rubbish you're speaking. So they won't give any ears to it, right? So what, from the parental standpoint, parents need to take a more direct approach in focusing on the information, engage in self-discovery, right? In terms of getting the relevant content. Also, your social group need to be one that reflects positivity. You cannot be saying one thing to the child, don't smoke, but let's say every night the child sees you hanging out with a group of individuals who smoke endlessly and you are indulging just the same. That's contradictory. So parents need to act the part, stay the part, and be the part so that the children can have a referencing point. That's what we are missing a lot of. The youngsters, they do not have any reference point, somewhat.
Arain Ruddock, for a parent at home who is interested, for a child at home going into summer holidays and might be asked by their friends to experiment, how do they contact you and the National Council of Drug Abuse, not only in Westmoreland but across the country? Because maybe they need more information, maybe they need more help. How do they get through to someone who can provide legitimate information for them?
All right, so to contact the Westmoreland office, you can simply dial 876-359-6566. So I'll repeat for the Westmoreland office, 876-359-6566. And for the general helpline of NCDA, that's the regular 876 area code 564-HELP or 564-4357.
So 876-564-HELP is that helpline, that line that a parent or a teen or any adult facing drug abuse issues can reach out to getting help. And you also gave us that 359 number for those in Westmoreland who would be able to get closer help and assistance. Orain Ruddock from the National Council on Drug Abuse, you have helped someone save a life today, whether it's theirs or someone they love. Thank you so much for joining us this evening inside Lead Story. All right, we take a break here inside Lead Story.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
It all begins here. The JTA Sagicor National Athletics Championships. Come see the future of Jamaica's track and field shine. Friday, June 26 and Saturday, June 27, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the National Stadium. Adults $500, students in uniform or school gear $300. Come cheer on your parish and meet our patron, world under 2200 meters silver medalist Shanoya Douglas. The JTA Sagicor National Athletics Championships, June 26 and 27. Don't miss it.
The greatest show on earth is here, and Fan Central goes into extra time for 39 days right throughout FIFA's Showpiece tournament. With a Pepsi in hand, of course. Catch the playbook with a tactical breakdown from our expert coaches. Come sit in our fan corner where you have your say on the day's action. Fame or shame, who were the best or worst players of the day? And have a laugh as we share some of the best reactions on social media. After the final whistle, it's extra time. Fan Central Extra Time. 8 p.m. daily with 10 p.m. shows on select days where there are 8 p.m. match kickoffs.
Fan Central Extra Time is brought to you by the Pepsi Football Nation, where fans make the rules. Football, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back. When the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce issues a public statement on a matter of national governance, it's worth paying attention to. The Chamber's response to the recent Integrity Commission report concerning Cabinet Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley was not about the merits of any particular case. Rather, it was about the importance of strong, credible institutions in maintaining public confidence and supporting economic growth. The Chamber is calling for a robust anti-corruption framework, arguing that transparency, accountability, and the rule of law are essential to a healthy business environment. And that raises an important question, because when questions are raised about governance, does that impact extend beyond politics in Jamaica to the wider economy? Do investors pay attention? Does institutional credibility affect Jamaica's competitiveness? And what responsibility does the private sector have to speak when it believes the country's governance framework can be strengthened? Well, joining me now inside Lead Story is Emil Leiber, President of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Leiber, welcome to Lead Story.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Emil Leiber, the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce chose to issue a public statement following the Integrity Commission's report. Why did you believe it was important for the business community to speak at this time?
We felt that, we try not to get into what I call arguments about one side or the other, but certainly things that affect the national interest, things that affect the overall governance framework, are things that affect business, and are things that we think are worthy of comment. And so once it is, uncertainty is not good for anyone, whether individually or in the business space, and we are of the view that this issue is something that needs to be addressed.
Well, you certainly are looking at addressing that issue while having a very scenic background behind you. So you want calm, you want Jamaica to be in a good place, but your statement calls for a robust anti-corruption framework. What specifically does the Chamber believe still needs to be strengthened?
So one of the areas that we have observed over the years is how long it takes for charges relating to corruption to be conclusively resolved, if at all. And so what we think should be the area of focus is what we call a final resolution. Meaning that so when there's a report table, then if there are charges to be issued, there should be a very short window between when the report is tabled to Parliament and when the charges are issued, if they are to be issued. Once the charges are issued, then it should enter an expedited process. And that process should hopefully result in a resolution, a conclusive resolution, whether it is acquittal or conviction, perhaps within a 9-month period. So that it is that for both the benefit of the system of governance and the perception of addressing corruption-related concerns, as well as for the benefit of the accused person, so that they don't have charges and matters like this lingering over them for an extended period of time without any form of resolution.
That's important, that rule of law, that due process that some would see. But some are also looking at this issue involving a cabinet minister and involving the Integrity Commission as a political issue. Why does the business community view it also as an economic one?
So, things can be both political and economic. We choose to take the economic side of it more so than the political side of it. Our role is not political advocacy. Our role is advocacy on behalf of the business community in relation to commercial issues. And so for us, it's not about one party or the other, one side or the other. For us, it's about having, I said, good governance, and good governance should apply whether or not you are a government running a country or whether you are a large, medium, or small business, because good governance benefits us all. And so as a country, when it is that we have a system that is perceived by those who are external to Jamaica, like foreign direct investors, if they perceive that corruption-related matters are addressed quickly, then that will improve the perception of Jamaica in the international space. And internally as a country, if we know that there are allegations of corruption made against any public official on any level, that they will be dealt with expeditiously, that too will strengthen our internal operations within Jamaica and the perception of how government is run, basically.
That internal perception is important. Making sure that transparency and accountability as well as rule of law for investors is important as well. But the JCC has said, hey, we can also be on a list. We could become the 30th country in the world to establish a dedicated anti-corruption court. What do you believe that court could do that the current system cannot?
So I don't personally practice in the criminal courts where this would be addressed, but certainly to my knowledge, when cases are called up, many times they are what they call adjourned or postponed, sometimes postponed for extended periods. There is a split in resources. The judges are dealing with multiple cases, the prosecution are dealing with multiple cases, and this is simply one of several matters that they have to deal with. And so what that can result in is sometimes when, for some reason or another, a case doesn't proceed or some preliminary question or issue is raised in the case, it takes an extended period for those types of matters to be resolved before we can get to what I call the substantive issues in the matter. And so when it is that those types of things can cause years of delay and have caused years of delay in the current system. And so if there are dedicated resources to say that, okay, if you raise a concern this week, it will be dealt with in the next 2 weeks. That's what that ruling will be made on that. If you have another issue, we'll rule on that within a month. And so you can track it and keep it moving on a steady track and focus resources on those corruption cases. Then I'm not limiting it to members of cabinet, etc. I'm saying about any corruption-related matter involving any public official, from a police, if applicable, or any other tier, somebody who works in a government agency. And so if corruption-related cases are dealt with quickly, then it will also have a deterrent effect against persons who may be tempted to engage in acts of corruption if they know that they'll be brought before the courts quickly and they will be their matters will be addressed quickly.
Well, I think that is important for persons to hear the JCC say that this rule of law process for everybody is what you're hoping to make more efficient as we look at this system. You've made it very clear you're not looking at the politics of it. You're looking at the economic benefits of it. Help us then understand from the JCC's perspective, because even before a matter is finally determined by the courts, can prolonged questions about governance create uncertainty for the private sector?
Yes, it can. It can, because there's so many things that are subject to ministerial approval. And we know that whenever there's a change of government, you have uncertainty. Whenever there's an election, it's not even a change of government. Whenever you have a general election, things slow down before the election. Things takes time to ramp up after the election. Whenever there is, even without a general election, a change in ministerial roles, reassignment, that can have implications on many things, many approvals that may fall under that ministry. If there are projects in place, if you're in discussions with Minister X about implementing something for the good of the country, and then Minister X is no longer in place and it's Minister Y, or there's an acting person. When you put in place an acting person, they don't feel they have the mandate to effect change and effect long-term policies. All of those things do have implications for the overall governance framework and interaction because with the private sector and the public sector, because the private sector cannot function without the public sector. From customs, you have to import items. From the tax administration, everybody has to pay taxes. From the Ministry of Finance, if you have a government contract, Ministry of Finance and Public Service, and I could go on, and even trade and many other areas where the private sector does not exist independently of the public sector. And so in order for the private sector to operate efficiently, it must be against the framework and backdrop of an efficient, reliable, consistent and stable public sector.
Well, you certainly helped us better understand the interconnectedness between the private sector and the public sector and why the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce has issued this statement. You join a number of other organizations, the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, the Jamaica Council of Churches as well, in issuing releases. But you said for the good of business, you want to see now issues like these dealt with. Emil Lariba, President of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining us this evening inside Lead Story.
Pleasure.
All right. Have a good evening yourself. After the break, we've now signed a memorandum of understanding with the U.S. regarding third country nationals. So let's speak to the opposition spokesperson on human rights next inside Lead Story.
From foundation to rooftop high, 50 years as the cornerstone of the nation.
Brick by brick, side by side, we've been building dreams all across Jamaica. Yeah. We're building communities, we're housing generations with trust and care. We light the way with LHD, home starts here. Building communities, we're housing generations with heart and hope. We lead the way with LHD, the key to your home. The key to your home.
the internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Welcome back. One of the most significant policy developments over the past few weeks has been the government's confirmation that Jamaica has signed a memorandum of understanding with the United States regarding third country nationals. The announcement has already generated questions about transparency, capacity, national security, and human rights. Those questions have become even more relevant following recent developments in the United States, where yesterday the U.S. Supreme Court handed down two landmark immigration decisions. The combined effect of those decisions? The path is now legally clear, where court decisions have cleared the way for the U.S. administration to proceed with ending temporary protected status and for the deportation of more than 350,000 Haitian nationals and 6,100 Syrians who've been living and working legally in the United States under humanitarian protections. While it's not yet known how those developments will impact us here in Jamaica, they have renewed the debate about whether the country has a legal framework, the physical capacity, and the human rights safeguards necessary should the number of third country nationals increase, or those deported to our shores might not be from the U.S. Because earlier this week, our next guest delivered his contribution to the sectoral debate, outlining the opposition's priorities for youth policy and human rights. So joining me now via phone is the opposition spokesperson on youth and human rights, Isaac Buchanan. Mr. Buchanan, welcome to Lead Story.
Greetings and greetings to your viewers.
Mr. Buchanan, you've just completed your contribution to the sectoral debate. What do you believe is the single most pressing human rights issue facing Jamaica today?
Well, with the TCN now in the forefront, I'll just say it's about equity, equitable distribution, as well as the right to life.
You've highlighted that then as your most pressing human rights issues, and your presentation spoke about strengthening the protection of rights as well. What kind of practical changes are you proposing that would make the biggest difference to ordinary Jamaicans and as well, it seems, those coming into the country under either third country national status or those who make their way on Jamaica's shores, like we've seen with Haitians this week in Portland?
You know, it's really just public education in terms of the rights. We are anticipating that there will be constitutional amendments. Jamaica's push towards a republic, and just ensuring that we secure the Charter of Rights, which I maintain is probably the most progressive charter in a modern, free and democratic society. So it's about the recognition of the rights. And, you know, rubbishing in spaces when we hear that Jamaica doesn't have a human rights problem because the lived human experience says otherwise.
And that is something that you raised in your sectoral presentation as well, with Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck saying that statement, that Jamaica does not have a human rights problem. But you had raised in your sectoral presentation what you labeled a child protection emergency in Parliament, citing 13,531 reports of child abuse in 2023 to 2024. How do we balance both?
Yes, that's exactly the point. You see, youth and human rights, they go hand in hand. We have been using band-aid mechanisms to say that we are addressing problems, but we're actually not fixing it. When you think about disability, youth with disability, when we think of just how the youth is neglected, and the 211 line is is a start, but when you think of the amount of abuse for children and women, let's not leave them out. We tend to realize that we have to have a conversation about even the horizontal application of the Charter of Rights and how we are to address it through the courts.
Is something that the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms in 2011 did new, allowing for citizens to use a charter against other citizens. Do you believe that Jamaicans would need to use the courts more frequently in order to see something like this become more accepted?
Well, I think definitely it is a component that has to happen. When you think of how persons are discourteous, even in the social media, and how people have zero regard for human dignity, I think Justice Sykes did in the TVJ Tomlinson case gave an indication that the horizontal application of the horizontal rights is a possibility. It is real. And I think we need to get there. And, we have all of these, what they call petty session matters, but they're a little bit more nuanced. And I see where mediation legislation is coming to the forefront. And just think that the constitutional implications need to be added in the conversation so that people can respect basic human rights, and it will force us to understand it, because that ignorance is no excuse to the law. So if we have constitutional application, that would be the reality.
Spokesperson Buchanan, you spoke about having this more, I will paraphrase, more courteous application of just goodwill here in Jamaica. Some, though, would argue that you have, in your time in public office, not always been as courteous. Is this something that you are using yourself as a model in changing, therefore leading others to use as well?
Yes, man. My time in public office, I would dare say to anybody that they should point me to anywhere that is there is discourtesy. One should not use sound bites from the internet and miss the context to say that there was discourtesy. I have some of the most erudite mentors, and I'm fully aware from life, from the lived human experience, just basic human decency and empathy. And so I would encourage other persons to understand that, meet people at the level where they are, and continue public education. That would be my response to that.
Public education is something that you've also asked for with regard to the Third Country National Agreement. That's something that you believe in your sectoral contribution, you said, should be brought before Parliament. Though the MOU, we have been told, is not binding. The government has indicated it is not binding and it contains sufficient safeguards. Why do you still believe it needs to come for parliamentary review?
I think the central issue, and I think I've simplified it now. There was a time, and I know, Jody, I know you would have experienced it, when all what that was required from our parents was simply to ask permission. It is a case where there is a constant exclusion of Jamaicans after Jamaica Jamaicans have choose Jamaica, that slogan. We often forget Jamaicans. We have some of the brightest minds in this country that we can seek guidance from, and even in our parliament, where we can sit and try to work things out. There are some of us who we understand that the government has its mandate, but it does not hurt when the public is in the know, and we as a country have to brace ourselves. It's ironic that we were all called together and said, Melissa is coming and we need to brace ourselves and shut things up, and this is what you need to do. It is a disaster emergency if we don't know what to expect. And so we have to treat the TCN as an emergency so that we can brace ourselves and prepare ourselves, and the country has elected officials and different constituencies has chosen their leader. And so we must have the conversation, because I am a servant of the people of Portland Eastern, and I have to be able to have answers to them. And the worst thing you can say is, I don't know, because I don't know what they're saying. It is offensive to the Constitution, and it is offensive to His Majesty's Parliament, to which the mace is so sacred.
So on that basis then, do you believe that Jamaicans just don't understand at this point in time the obligations that we've taken on? Because we've been told it will only be 25 per week. If we have more than 10 staying on the ground, we will end the program. That doesn't seem like it might be a crisis that you are putting it in terms of, given then the announcements that we've heard subsequently.
All right, I'd like to go to the basics. You said 10, 25 at a time. Every constituency is given about 5 to 10 houses maximum for an entire fiscal year. It would mean that we have housing issues now, even post-Melissa. We cannot pretend that 9 months later we don't have recovery crisis. But they said NARA's response for everything. Just understand our culture will be affected, our economy will be affected, our jobs will be affected, opportunity is scarce, access to justice will be affected. I mean, today, as I spoke to you, the Haitians were sent away. The procedure, locally, we do not have the infrastructure. We don't have asylum legislation.
Cannon, let me just be clear.
Yes.
Those are the Haitians that had made their way onto Portland there, 28 in total.
Today,
those are the ones you're referring to?
Yes, the 17 that came Monday, they left today.
Saying the process you believe was not adequate in determining whether they could stay or not?
Well, that's what all I'm saying is we are to have an equitable system and make determinations in terms of what we're doing. We can't send a message that TCNs are okay, but Haitians are not. And I mean, the United States, their decisions are instructive because they made decisions in terms of the Haitians, and they also made decisions in terms of asylum. And what the asylum decision by 6-3 made it clear that if you didn't set foot in America, then you would go back to your country even if you were to die. These are big, it has big human rights implications in the international space, and Jamaica is a small country governed and ruled by our constitution, which is the Don of all dons, has to say that do we have the capacity? That's what the public needs to know. And the answer is, as I'm speaking to you now, is no. Has nothing to do what America has asked of us, is a whether or not we have the capacity. And I think that's what the conversation is, because I must be honest, I don't think Jamaica was in a position to tell the United States no. How we prepare our citizens through public education and how we prepare ourselves, even as leaders, to articulate that collectively is why we have the conversations, even for the media, even for the law society, even for the academic society. It's pointless to have tertiary institutions with some of the greatest minds to exclude them, and I'm maintaining that.
Well, it's certainly something that you did speak of in your sectoral presentation, and we continue to listen to what is going on as not only we look at those big decisions coming from the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday, but also what Jamaica's response might be. Isaac Buchanan, opposition spokesperson on youth and human rights, thank you so very much for joining us this evening inside Lead Story.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
When we return, it's time for State of Play.
The greatest show on earth is here, and Fan Central goes into extra time for 39 days right throughout FIFA's Showpiece tournament, with a Pepsi in hand, of course. Catch the playbook with a tactical breakdown from our expert coaches. Come sit in our fan corner, where you have your say on the day's action. Fame or shame, who were the best or worst players of the day? And have a laugh as we share some of the best reactions on social media. After the final whistle, it's extra time. Fan Central Extra Time. 8 p.m. daily with 10 p.m. shows on select days where there are 8 p.m. match kickoffs.
Fan Central Extra Time is brought to you by the Pepsi Football Nation, where fans make the rules. Football, better with Pepsi.
the internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Every dream conquered is another dream game. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music keeps on playing, and the people that I say we are mash up the dance. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't fit it dark. Shine your lights
My production team is amazing. That's all I'll say about that. Welcome back. Time now for State of Play. We begin not on a football pitch, but on a track in Zagreb, Croatia, where Jamaica's athletes delivered two performances tonight that will have the athletics world paying attention. We begin with excellent news for Jamaican athletes because Stacey Ann Williams produced the performance of her season, running a lifetime best of 49.4 seconds to win the women's 400 meters at the Boris Zanikovic Memorial in Zagreb, Croatia. The performance not only secured victory, but sent a strong message that Williams is in the building momentum phase as the championship season approaches. Britain's Yemi Mary John finished second in 50.33 seconds. And then there's even more good news for Jamaica, because not one, not two, not three, not four, but five-time Olympic champion Elaine Thompson-Herah continued her encouraging return to elite competition, winning the women's 100 meters in 10.91 seconds. The performance set a new meeting record, and it was her fastest time since 2023, an important milestone as she continues her comeback. Now, to the World Cup. Festivities first, because Ecuador President Daniel Noboa declared today, Friday, June 26, a public holiday. And he declared that public holiday in the country following the team's come from behind win against Germany at the 2026 World Cup. The announcement followed the team's surprising 2-1 victory over Germany on Thursday. Now, writing on X, President Noboa lauded the team's resilience, stating, "Thanks to the players and the coach who, despite the criticism, the insults, and the tough moments they went through, managed to recover and give this immense joy to the entire country. Tomorrow, a holiday." The decisive 2-1 triumph over Germany was essential for Ecuador, coming after a defeat by Ivory Coast and a draw with Curacao in their Group E fixtures. Now on to today. Before today's matches got underway, there was a moment that stepped outside the game. The France-Norway fixture didn't have French coach Didier Deschamps today. He left to bury his mother. But the entire fixture opened with a moment of silence, observed by players, officials, and fans in Boston, in honor of those who lost their lives and livelihoods in the powerful earthquakes that struck Venezuela. We continue to keep those families in our thoughts. This is a difficult time for so many of them. Now back onto the pitch. France today played. They were dominant. The final score, France 4, Norway 1. An entertaining score sheet with Ousmane Dembele scoring the first half hat-trick, completing it in the 32nd minute. It's the second fastest hat-trick in the World Cup history. The first one was 24 minutes that they had a hat-trick, but don't worry. You didn't even see Kylian Mbappe scoring today. He then, though, showed up as an assistant to those big Dembele goals. Desiree Doué added a fourth in injury time. Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard, well, they didn't show up today. Odegaard didn't show up. They were rested by Norway. And my production team was up in arms about it, saying they would have wanted to see Mbappe and Haaland on the same pitch. Not to happen. They were rested for their next match. So, France top Group I. Norway advance as runners-up. In the other Group I match this afternoon, Senegal 5, Iraq 0. That dominant performance and display sees Senegal advance to the round of 32 as one of the best third-place teams. And they needed all those goals to be able to make it, and they made that possible. Now, let's look at where things stand as the final group stage enters its almost last day. 20 teams have now confirmed their place in the round of 32. From the group winners, Mexico won their group, so did the USA, Germany, Brazil, the Netherlands, France, Argentina, and Colombia. From the runners-up, South Africa in their first ever World Cup knockout qualification, and they hosted the World Cup before. Canada, Australia, Morocco, Ivory Coast. Also a first, Japan, Norway, and Switzerland. From the best third-place teams already confirmed, we have Bosnia and Herzegovina. They'll be playing the United States, Ecuador, and Sweden. And Sweden is likely to be playing France up next. And then the team I spoke to you about a moment before that got the 5 goals they needed to make it, Senegal. Now, the group stage is not yet over. Tonight we still have Uruguay against Spain and Cabo Verde against Saudi Arabia. And the projections here are closer than you would think they would be. Later, Belgium versus New Zealand and Egypt versus Iran. Then tomorrow, June 27, the remaining groups conclude. And by then, we'll get a look at the full 32-team bracket that will be locked. Now, we'll have the complete picture for you next week inside Lead Story. Now, you're going to be watching all of these with us. So let me tell you what happened yesterday evening. Turkey beat the United States 3-2. What an entertaining match. I watched it from beginning to end. However, Turkey was already knocked out. So that match was effectively what you can call dead rubber. The USA had already won Group D and they qualified before kickoff. Coach Mauricio Pochettino had rested 9 of his starters, just like you saw with 10 of the starters rested today by Norway, including Christian Pulisic. He was protecting the players ahead of the knockout round, Pulisic making his way onto the pitch anyway. But as I said to you, the Americans now face Bosnia and Herzegovina on the 1st of July in Santa Clara. All of that, then, is the state of play. Now, here's my take before we go tonight. What struck me most about tonight's program wasn't just any one story. It was all of them together. Institutions. They all depend on institutions. The National Council on Drug Abuse exists to warn us. And it's warning us right now that Jamaican children as young as 13 are initiating ganja use, that 2/3 of current smokers are at high risk for dependence, and that a second drug, MDMA, is arriving at our borders in growing quantities, something that we spoke about yesterday and we looked at today. The institution is functioning. The question is whether we're listening. Because when it comes to drugs, we can't wait until a young person becomes addicted before we decide prevention matters. The Integrity Commission exists to hold public officials accountable. It too is functioning, exercising its mandate under law. The Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, the PSOJ, Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, and the Church, through the Jamaica Council of Churches, have all said, in their different ways, that the framework around that institution must now be strengthened. 29 countries have dedicated anti-corruption courts. The question of whether Jamaica becomes the 30th is not a rhetorical one. It's a governance decision that affects every business, every investor, and every citizen who depends on the rule of law to meet something. And the 1951 Refugee Convention an institution of international law that Jamaica has signed, exists to protect people who cannot go home. Yesterday, the United States Supreme Court ruled that American courts cannot review decisions that may send 350,000 Haitians into uncertainty. Jamaica has signed an MOU that puts us in a transit chain, and our own observers say our asylum framework isn't ready. Those people could just bypass coming to Jamaica, go directly to Haiti, and then try to get asylum here in Jamaica. The question, as Isaac Buchanan put it this week, is not whether we should shut our doors upon the world. It's whether we have built a legal architecture to honor our obligations before the frightened stranger arrives at our shore. Institutions only work when we give them the conditions to function, when we hold ourselves accountable to what they find. That is the story. I'm Jodianne Quarry, and on behalf of the entire CVM production team, thank you for watching Lead Story. Have a fantastic evening, an excellent weekend, and I hope you stay safe. Up next, CVM News.
The greatest show on earth is here, and Fan Central goes into extra time for 39 days right throughout FIFA's Showpiece tournament. With a Pepsi in hand, of course. Catch the playbook with a tactical breakdown from our expert coaches. Come sit in our fan corner where you have your say on the day's action. Fame or shame? Who are the best or worst players of the day? And have a laugh as we share some of the best reactions on social media. After the final whistle, it's extra time. Fan Central Extra Time. 8 p.m. daily with 10 p.m. shows on select days where there are 8 p.m. match kickoffs.
Fan Central Extra Time is brought to you by the Pepsi Football Nation, where fans